Hello, my name's Jerry. Now this is the Charles Bridge in Prague at dusk. There's the cool blue sky at the top, warm light near the horizon, and the tower and dome are in silhouette. I'm going to get straight into the painting. Starting at the top with cobalt blue. I've wet the paper and just added some Payne's grey. Nice and dark. And then I'm mixing up raw sienna. That's going to be the lower part of the sky. Just run the brush straight across. Don't worry about the towers. Paper's nice and wet, so got plenty of time to work on this. Just adding some more paint. It's really important to get this very dark because it's going to dry lighter, and then do a band of raw sienna. Just bring that down the top of the buildings. Now the brushes that I'm using are a 1 inch flat, which is a Rosemary Series 303, and a mop brush, which is a Rosemary's Red Dot Collection #4 mop. Nice big brushes. This is a quarter sheet Imperial watercolour paper, Saunders Waterford rough. Now carried on with this dark mixture, Payne's grey, cobalt blue, just a little bit of French ultramarine. Just pack it in nice and dark, using a nice chisel edge on this flat brush to go along the top of the wall and cut in between the buildings. You can see there's lots of paint on the paper here. I've got the board at a slight angle just to let the washes run down a little. Colours I'm using now: raw umber, a neutral tint. These are Jackson's own make watercolours, artist grade. You'll see in a little while how light this actually is when it dries, so going nice and dark. I'd already done the outline drawing here, and if you're going to have a go yourself, you can find the outline drawings on my Patreon site. If you want to have a go yourself and you're a bit unsure about your drawing, then you can maybe use tracing paper or something with the drawings. Bringing this wash down, lower part of the paper now. That's sepia, Payne's grey, and as you can see, I've got large puddles of paint there I'm dipping into. Leaving some white. I want that to be the reflecting light from the lampposts on this bridge. And then while that's all wet, it gives me a chance to put the first wash on these figures. These people on the bridge, they're just low-key shapes really. I'm not painting individuals. There's just that kind of gentle flow of figures going across the bridge that you get here in the evening. Another thing that you'll find is the atmosphere. When it's dusk, it softens everything. The buildings fall into shadow, the lights start to glow, and the reflections on the wet paving stones help pull your eye through this painting. Just bringing in these distant buildings here, very vague, with Jean Brilliant. Switch to a number 12, rosemary pointed round. This is the series 301. Keeping some of these buildings at the back light to contrast with the dark towers, which are really going to be part of the atmosphere here. Lots of areas with wet paint now. I'll just let that dry now. Dipping into cobalt turquoise and using the number 12 brush. Going to make a start on these towers. A nice point on this so I can do some of the finer parts at the top. I want this to be nice and dark, so I've initially gone over it with cobalt turquoise and then going into some raw sienna with a little bit of the turquoise mix for the lower part of the tower. Don't want it just to be a one dark colour here. A bit of a mixture of colours, make it more interesting. And now merging into the group of buildings on the right hand side. Not too important about windows and things on these buildings on the right hand side. And then putting these darks in on the buildings at the side of the tower on the bridge. Now while that edge is where I'm going to start bringing that colour across. Starting from the top so it can colours can run down. Paints ground, neutral tint, very dark colours. Mixing those together. And then just varying it with a little bit of watery paint in the middle, French ultramarine. Just keeping a little chink of white, which is the light reflected on the top of these sides of the bridge. See, I'm not being afraid to go dark with this. Straight away you can start to feel this nighttime atmosphere with these silhouettes. Very famous bridge, this one. Now I'm doing the main tower now, still using a size 12 brush. Paints grey and dipping into French ultramarine. Being quite careful as I come down with this because I want to leave those large openings there halfway down the tower. Very much a feature of this nighttime scene, those windows. I love the dark against the light. Those edges really stand out. And bringing in the lower part with burnt sienna and raw sienna. Just leaving that entrance archway there. That's where I want the eye to be led towards. And once again, dipping into Champollion, using a size 8 rosemary pointed round. This is the series 301. cerulean blue mixed with French ultramarine. Just want to get a variety of blues here, really. Don't want everything to be the same. And the top of these buildings in places like the dome will be slightly lighter, but there's still a little bit of light there in the sky reflecting off them. And then putting in these statues that line the bridge. I really like this kind of painting, the nighttime scenes. And if you want to see more of this kind of thing, nighttime scenes, well-known places, just let me know. Put it in the comments. Going over these figures again. Just trying to keep working really when some of the areas are wet. And I'm always mindful of the fact that my hand always goes onto the paper no matter how hard I try to keep it off. It's because the board's laying flat, which is the ideal way to film these kind of paintings. Well, not the ideal way, but the way that's most convenient to film them. Now I'm putting in some raw umber on the top part of the bridge. Using the smaller brush, size 8. Now the paper's on the board with masking tape. I don't use anything fancy, this is just regular decorating masking tape. And I always put it on just before I do the painting, and then take it off. Pretty much, I'll take it off at the end of this video, so it doesn't get a chance to stick too much to the paper. I mean, if you wanted to do the painting over a few days, then I would suggest taking the masking tape off and then reapplying new masking tape when you go again. It's just so you don't tear the paper. You can get a couple of days out of it, but I always like to put it on and take it off as I'm doing it. Now what I'm doing here is I've got a putty rubber, and I'm just taking off the pencil marks that are left. I don't want that one on the top of the wall or the low wall at the side. I want that to be brilliant white, which is the white of the paper. And also in the entrance to the bridge, I want that to really glow. And I've left some chinks of white there, which is going to be the light of the lamps. I will have to add some more with white gouache, but majority of them are just pure white of the paper. Now I've switched to a rigger brush now. This one is a size 1 rosemary pure sable, and this is the series 88. really fine brushes and ideal for doing these parts of the tower. They're really fiddly. Not sure what the architectural name is for them. Finiales, something like that. I've let the paper, or I've dried the paper before I've started to do these, so I can put my hand on there. And I'm going to be putting another wash on here, but I wanted to do these to get these top parts in with a dark colour. I've chosen neutral tint, but any dark colour would do. Notice, by the way, how much lighter the sky is now that it's dried out. It's a lot lighter than what you think. You could really go dark with these skies. But I think that's just about dark enough for what I want. And then there's these lovely shadows coming off of these figures that really give a sense of movement to the painting. Trying to do all the finicky bits with this rigger brush before I return to doing the washes again. Always try to be economical with my time doing these paintings. I think it stems back to when I was working and being an artist at the same time. I obviously had another job and didn't always have a lot of as much time as I would like. So I would paint as time-wise as economically as possible. You know, by that I mean using brushes as much as I can, doing as many washes as I can before I dry. Just trying to be as fast as I can without losing quality. Now these are the lampposts, the lamps, old-fashioned lamps. All that into the composition, just taking the eye right down the centre with these people. We're going right down there through that archway at the bottom. Now returning to a larger brush, gone back to the size 12. Darkening up this top of this tower now with some more cobalt turquoise and French ultramarine. Want the actual dome part to be slightly darker than the lower part, which is going in burnt sienna, raw sienna. Very thick mixture. Want this all to be dark. Darker the better. Just letting that colour run down now. I'm going to merge that with some darks as well. Wet against wet. And then just mixing some darks with the burnt sienna, raw sienna mixture, just to add a little bit of variety to that darkness. Don't want it just to be a slab of dark colour. Don't worry about going over the edges onto your masking tape when you're doing this, and that's going to come off and leave a nice clean edge when you're finished. You'll notice the large palette I'm using, which is one I always like to use, John Pike palette. Large plastic slab in the middle to put pools of colour, and I can dip into them, and because they stay wet during the course of these paintings, which normally take between about 45 minutes to an hour, I suppose, my paintings, so the paint stays nice and wet, so I can be dipping into them, mixing them together. Just doing these shadows of the or doing the outlines, I should say, of these statues. You can see how effective it is with the dark buildings and the light buildings. If everything was dark, it'd be a bit too much. So this gives the impression of maybe some lamps near these buildings or some spotlights shining up, lighting up the buildings at the side of the tower, adding to this grand effect. And going over pretty much the same colours as I used on the first wash with this tower. Burnt sienna, straight off of the straight off the paint in the well. Want this archway to really shine out. I'll be bringing in this statue on the right hand side just a little bit later. It's very much disappeared into the darkness of the building behind it. And I'm just putting a little bit of greenery here, some shrubs or something. Not making too much of this, very watery. And then putting in a very watery mixture of blue, just that variety of blues I've got there on the palette. Just taking a little bit of that lightness off of the of the buildings, giving it a very slight blue tint. Now moving straight into the reflected light on the ground with cobalt blue French ultramarine. Pulling that brush away from the figures, bringing it down the paper. Using the size 12 brush for this. Now switch to the smaller brush. Just putting in the indication of some features in these buildings, some windows. Not making too much of them, just putting a few marks in really. The actual buildings themselves are quite decorative and got quite a lot of windows. You don't want to be getting involved in all that. Want to leave that to your imagination. This is the top of the statue on the right hand side. It's really just disappeared. Dark statue outlining this against the dark buildings. It's not important. Statues on the left hand side are standing out. I'm too happy with the shape of that statue on the left there. I'll change that at the end. Raw umber and burnt sienna. Just doing this indication of some things growing there. Now I'm using cadmium yellow and cadmium red. Can start working on these lights now. Leave the center, just go around the outside. Go onto the surrounding paper. It'll just about show us a slight glow on the dark. It's watercolour, so it won't cover it. And then doing this the same on all the lights as a go round. There's more lights than this, so I will be doing them white gouache at the end. Just going around with the size 8 brush. And then putting the last wash on these figures, getting them, darkening them up, and also the reflections, shadows. popping them in and just smudging them with my finger. Could do it with a tissue if you wanted to. I tend to be a bit hands-on with this kind of thing. Now back to the rigger brush and just putting in some horizontal lines here to counteract the verticals. If you like these videos that I produce and to help my channel, I do have a Patreon channel where I do videos that I don't do on YouTube, original videos, and you don't get no adverts and things like that, so they're a bit different here, and I go from start to finish. And also some other work that I'm doing, works in progress. There's a community there, you can post paintings, get critiques. It helps my channel if you become part of it. It does take quite a lot of time and resources to make these videos. I'm just really going around with this rigger brush making marks. Try not to go too far with this little brush. Less is more, which is quite easier said than done sometimes at the end of a painting. Just taking my eye around the painting and see where it might benefit from a little bit of work with the rigger brush. No, I can't see too much more. I'm going to be putting the white gouache on. Pop my signature on. So that's the feel of it. Going to do the white gouache in a minute. But I think this painting, yeah, does have a nice feeling. A quiet dusk on Charles Bridge. There's these simple shapes, warm lights, low-key figures, and a bit of reflection to bring it all together. And I'm just putting some white gouache on with my finger. Wanted to add to these lights coming from the lamps, and then doing the white of the lights with my finger. Not happy with that statue on the left hand side. Doesn't look right. Going to change that slightly. Right, taking the masking tape off first. That nice crisp line. Looks great with the against the darks. When you do take your masking tape off, best to make sure that everything's dry and your hands are clean. I'm just going to do a little bit of work on this figure on the left. There's the final painting. I've used a wet brush and just scrubbed out some colour there and changed that shape of the statue on the left. I wasn't happy with that. There you are, Charles Bridge. See you in the next one.